Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group. It is March 1st, 2018. I want to welcome everybody to this week's call. My name is Patrick Rogers, and I'm excited to get into the call today. We've got a lot of great stuff to cover and some really excellent community demos again from folks out there, so excited to see those as well. As always, we do like to begin for folks that might be new to this call or new to watching the videos on the YouTube channel about what this call is and why we're holding it and sort of the topics we're going to cover. So we are part of the larger SharePoint Patterns and Practices program, and we started these special interest group calls, oh gosh, about a year ago now, I want to say, because we had really grown beyond what we were able to cover in our single monthly call. We just had too many things going on with the client-side development, server-side development, the CSOM development, things like that. We just couldn't cover it all in a single call. So we broke out into these special interest groups, and we, of course, invite you to attend as many of these calls as you have interest. So we do on a rotating basis. Right now you're in the client-side development call. Next Thursday at this time is going to be a PowerShell and CSOM special interest group call. So we'll alternate back and forth like that every other week. And in this one, we're going to cover open discussion around SharePoint Framework and the client-side development patterns associated with SharePoint Framework, but also just with SharePoint client-side development in general as well. Not all SharePoint client-side development happens inside SharePoint Framework, though, of course, we do encourage that. 2 years ago. Has it been that long already? Wow.
Sorry, Patrick, for messing you there. But it is actually 2 years.
I am an old man.
SharePoint Framework is now 1 year old, which I, by the way, missed the slide actually from the presentation. So if SharePoint Framework is now 1 year old, then it's 2 years when we started this call.
Oh, wow. Sorry, just a lot's happened in 2 years.
Yes.
Must be why I look the way I look. But so anyway, so all the client-side development patterns and discussions around SharePoint, and then as well we talk about the JavaScript libraries we've all developed together as a community to help with these efforts. So they're designed very well to work with inside SharePoint Framework as well as outside SharePoint Framework. So if you're doing stuff in a script editor web part or something along those lines, in a SharePoint hosted add-in or provider hosted add-in, and as well in Node.js. So we're looking to cover all those kind of environments and help everybody's development efforts out there. So 2 links down there at the bottom. Excuse me, aka MS-SPPnP-community takes you to the Microsoft Tech Community SharePoint development area. That's an excellent place to ask general development questions, stuff like how do I, things like that. How would you do this certain part of a project that might not necessarily be related to any specific library or be an issue with any specific library. So great place for general development questions, and a lot of folks in the community are very happy to jump in and help out in those places. The bottom link there, aka MS-SPDev-docs, takes you to the official documentation for all of SharePoint development. So it's going to be SharePoint Framework if you're looking to get started with that, or you're already using it and need a quick refresher on something, as well as the documentation for CSOM style development and even the classic WSP managed code style development. Even though we're not seeing quite as much of that anymore, lots of folks are still doing that. Lots of folks are still on premises, so that's still happening. But all those docs are being consolidated into that one location. So check out those links. A great place to get started as an entry into the community. So our agenda for this call today, we have an engineering update on SharePoint Framework, and then we've got updates around the JavaScript client libraries, the Office 365 CLI, and then as well the Patterns and Practices reusable client controls for SharePoint Framework that have been developed. So we'll have updates on those. And then we've got 3 community demos today, all 3 of which I'm very excited to see. The first will be by Austin Breslin. And actually, he had asked, we're going to change this order around a little bit, but we've got Austin Breslin with an offline first example for React. so how to mock up stuff and use things in an offline manner. Rodrigo Silva is doing a Q&A chatbot demo using cognitive services, another very cool thing to see. And then Ramin Ahmadi is doing a React file upload example. And so I haven't seen him on the call, so if he does join, please just let me know. We'll get him promoted to presenter. But another very cool example of doing a file upload in React and SharePoint Framework. So excited to see that as well. Oh, there he is. Awesome. I'll get you promoted in just a second. And then at the end, if we have time, we'll do a Q&A and open discussion. So before we get to the meat of the call, I always do like to bring up opportunities to participate, because we get a lot of questions about the stuff you're doing looks really cool and awesome, but how do I get involved? How do I participate? How do I be part of what's happening? And really the way to do that is to just get involved. And I know that sounds a little ominous, but the ways to do that is on this call, we love to have the community demos. So demo an SPFx solution or something around the JavaScript client libraries, or something that is none of those things but does client-side development inside SharePoint in some manner, or Node.js development against SharePoint in some manner. We love to see these community demos, and I think they're one of the most valuable parts of these calls. So if you're interested in demoing some work you've done, really would love to have you do so. Just reach out to myself or Vesa on Twitter, or you can email us or any of the other places. You usually will grab stuff. If you submit a sample to, for example, the SPFx web parts, if you submit a new sample there, we'll usually ask you if you want to demo it on the call. So really appreciate the folks who do the demos. Don't email me, please don't. So definitely check out those demos, or if you're interested, reach out, let us know you want a demo, and we'll definitely get you a place on a call. So demoing, I think, is one of the more valuable things we do here. Contributing on GitHub. So contributing on GitHub can be submitting issues you found, or suggestions for enhancements with with the libraries, or any of the various other work we do. We always appreciate that feedback on GitHub. I will say we've gotten a couple of issues lately that have been just fantastic for the amount of detail that was included with screenshots and code samples, and that's really helped us pinpoint the issues and understand what folks are seeing. So wanted to say thank you for that. And the more information you can give us with your issue submission, the easier it is for us to kind of get that resolved in some fashion, whether it's an enhancement or just understanding what's going on. Because often context is tough, without seeing exactly the code you might be working on. And then as well, finally, provide us feedback, whether even if it's not through GitHub. We do appreciate the feedback we get, how we're doing on these calls, how we're doing with the libraries we do, how the work with SharePoint Framework is going. We really, really do take that feedback to heart. We can't always act on every piece of feedback immediately, so please don't be discouraged by that. It's just a priorities thing and a life thing and a work thing and all that. I think we all understand juggling, balancing all those things, but we do appreciate that feedback. So let us know if you have thoughts, ways we can do things better, make things more clear, make things more open. Whatever it might be, we do appreciate that feedback. Let us know. We love to hear from you. And now with that, I believe we are ready for a SharePoint Framework update from Vesa.
Unmute myself. There we go. So I'm going to take over the presentation. And a few slides from the engineering side. We do have 3 sessions today. 3 demos today, so I'm not going to do any specific demos, but certain things, again, to repeat from a SharePoint engineering side. So a few typical slides, a reminder of these things for everybody. AKMS SPDev docs, the new location for all of the official SharePoint development documentation. If something isn't there and it should be there, please let us know. Easiest way to actually let us know that something is missing is tend to use AKMS SPDev issues list. So this is really your tool to report first any technical issues which might be in SharePoint development, SharePoint API, SharePoint Framework, rather than, let's say, ranting in Twitter or social media complaining that SharePoint people don't get it. Well, it might be that we just missed the bug. So please let us know by going AKMS SPDev issues. But also, if there's any gaps in our documentation, mistakes in the documentation, this is a great location for let us know that, so we're able to then schedule those in our roadmap and to address the gaps themselves. Now, please, 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 whatever you find, please use this issue list here, because we do triage that basically on day-to-day basis and together with engineering. Well, we in engineering, we triage that on almost a daily basis. So we actually do go through all of the submissions and see if there's any critical things. Now, for some of those issues which have been reported, we haven't been super actively updating what we are doing. There will be updates on these things. As an example, I think last time people were asking around the eventing, page eventing mechanism or challenges around that one for modern pages in the context of extensions, and that is now getting, I think that was actually checked in yesterday, so the fix is coming quite soon within the SharePoint Online. Now, one thing that I wanted to pinpoint in here, this is kind of almost a running joke, but please, 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 please do not, and I do repeat it, do not send emails to me. That's not the fastest way of getting any support around SharePoint development. Trust me, there's no way for me to follow up on my inbox anymore. So that's one of the reasons why we're trying to use these consolidated locations, either the Stack Overflow or the tech community or the issue list if it's actually a bug within a SharePoint or a gap within our existing things. Now, moving on other things. So one thing that I've been always updating here and twice in all of the community calls is the growth of the SharePoint Framework usage. So this is the growth of SharePoint Framework, actually third-party web parts, so custom web parts which are being used in SharePoint Online in a global scale. We do not actually have permissions to show the exact number, but I can show you the growth without the number. So you can actually get some sort of a feeling on how fast people are adapting SharePoint Framework in the SharePoint Online. There's two ways and there's two things related on this one, just to pinpoint. We see actually quite a lot of usage on SharePoint Framework web parts on classic portals, which is completely understandable because SharePoint Framework does work on the classic publishing as well. And that way you can actually implement modern web parts using the SharePoint Framework, but you still can use the classic publishing if for you the communication sites, as an example, isn't providing all of the needed portal capabilities. And then obviously the second dimension is that if you are looking into or if you need to have a custom extension or you implement a custom extension, that only works within the modern experiences. So those are actually executed and used in the modern experiences. Now, I probably missed some comments in the IM stream. I do apologize. I'll get back on those after my section. Now, one thing what I still kept in here from a last time as well, because this just happened last time. So as part of the 1.4.1 release of SharePoint Framework, which came out 2 weeks ago roughly, we now have a basically unlimited set of Microsoft Graph scopes available for you. So if you're looking into, in the past, you're looking into having a Microsoft Graph or accessing Microsoft Graph and there was a limited set of scopes, you can now actually select what are the scopes available for people to take advantage. And the second really, really big thing, which we will have a webcast and live demos slightly later as well, is the third-party web API support for SharePoint Framework customization. So you're able, in a secured way, call a custom web API, which is hosted, for example, in Azure in this case. So really, really, really great advanced or additional things which are now supported. Now, the Node 8.x support came at the same release, and the NPM 5 support is included in this release as well. So we're finally back in line, basically, on the long-term service LTS versions of the node. And obviously, we keep on and try to keep on up to date on all of this version development on the node side in the future as well. Now, a quick update on the roadmap. We have quite a lot of slides to go through still. Not that many changes in here since the last 2 weeks. Maybe a small update here. It seems to be that hub sites and hub APIs we will actually start to preview relatively soon. So last week we had a special interest group call for SharePoint development, so not the SPFx one, the general one. And in there I did I think a 40-minute demo around the hub sites and APIs and all of that. So that's coming coming quite soon available. And then the Groupify API seems to be delayed slightly longer, so it's not going to be released at exactly the same time. But the target is still to go live during this month for both of these, at least for now. There might be still changes on this. In practice, a lot of people have been asking that, okay, you're running out of things on your roadmap, which is absolutely true. So the next big announcement timing will be SPC 18. So the SharePoint conference in Las Vegas, where we will then announce the next set of things, what are we actually right now building or what are we starting to build, and then potentially something might be ready already to release on SPC, and then the big release timeline is actually the Ignite in autumn. That's how it works in our side. One more slide on my side, just quickly summary or changes on the SharePoint Framework side, or more on the SharePoint PnP side. And let me clarify this slightly, but we have now extended our SharePoint PnP community team with 3 additional persons. So 2 Andrews, so Andrew C and Andrew K. I think both potentially are in this call, and then Mikael Svensson are part of the SharePoint MVP team. And just quickly explaining what this actually means. So we in SharePoint community or SharePoint in the development, we actually build our community and guidance and samples and all of this stuff together with community. And one of the things one of the realities is that there's so many contributions and there's so many people active in a GitHub and also in documents and all of that, we actually can't keep up with our engineering resources. Plus the fact that, no offense for engineering people, including me as well, we are from Redmond or we are from Microsoft. We don't necessarily always understand the latest and greatest and all of the up-to-date things, what happens actually at the customer side. So therefore, we need people who are more up to date what actually happens in the customer at the customer facing development. And that's why we actually have then a special SharePoint PnP team, which includes then internal Microsoft people and also external people. And we're looking into extending this team in the future as well, so getting more and more people, MVPs, included in this team, which will then help us on this journey on making sure that you have a sufficient amount of documents and sufficient amount of samples showing how to be successful with SharePoint development. Cool. And the one thing what I forgot, I already mentioned that I've completely forgot it, but SharePoint Framework turned 1 year old week ago. So a week ago, Friday on 23rd of February, SharePoint Framework had a 1 year anniversary for GA announcement, which is kind of cool. And so Patrick, from calculating the times, we have had this actually call already 2 years, which is pretty interesting. So time flies when you're having fun.
That's just impossible. I don't believe it.
Yeah, we can go back on the Channel 9 recordings 2 years ago, probably. It would be interesting to see what was there. But anyway, I think that's enough from my side. So nothing too major on the SharePoint Framework side for now. We are looking into releasing the hub side APIs, which will be then available for SharePoint development and Groupify still in this quarter. And then the next announcements most likely will have to wait until SPC to get anything additional over there. But Patrick, please take it away on the PnP JS stuff.
Great, and I did want to just make sort of a general comment. There's been a discussion going in the comment window around when are the samples going to get updated, stuff like that. And honestly, it's a time issue. We on the core team are already swamped, so it's very hard to sort of, with prioritizing doing the new work and the community work, circling back to update samples. Agree they should be updated, but that's a great way to contribute, and it's a fairly easy way to get started contributing. So if you have some time or see a sample that's valuable to you and wish it was updated, maybe pull that down, do the update, push that in. We'd love to give you the credit, love to thank you for doing that. It's very much not that we are ignoring needing to update those samples, but it really is just a time thing for all of us. We're all juggling the time schedule with our lives and with work and all that stuff. So just keep that in mind. If you do have a few moments and want to update a sample, generally it doesn't take too much, to update a single sample. And we very much appreciate it. Again, on our side from the core team, those little bits of help go a really long way to help the whole community. So just wanted to sort of say that, and again, we do appreciate everybody that has contributed and has updated samples, because I know there's folks out there doing that. So thank you for that work. It's very much appreciated. So stepping into a quick update on the client-side libraries. Again, the library is github.com/pnp/pnp. Upcoming release, March 2nd, which is actually, if you're counting, tomorrow, but that might actually be Monday, depending. I've got a couple outstanding issues I think will be nice to get fixed, and I'm not sure I'll have them by tomorrow. And we are now, as a group, as a PnP core team, for all our projects, doing a changelog file. So changelog.md in the root of the project is we're all doing that, and we've all adopted a standard format. So in our PnP client-side libraries example, you can check out the changelog and see what's going to be upcoming for the next release, and that's true now across all the libraries. So check that out, and we'll be updating that obviously with each release, but that'll be the way to track what's new. We did want to mention CDN JS support is still in the works. We're still approved. We're just in their queue. They have a lot of stuff to get through. They're obviously a huge project. Peter does an amazing work over there, but so that is not done yet, but we're still tracking to have that done. And we're going to talk about numbers on the next slide a little bit, but I felt it was very much worth mentioning and saying thank you to all of you in the community that have chosen to use the client-side libraries. So that's both the new @PnP scoped libraries as well as SPFx and JS. It's now the third most launched third-party library in SharePoint Framework. So I can't show you the raw numbers there, but we're just behind jQuery, which doesn't surprise me at all, but then also behind Unite Gallery, which is makes a little fancy kind of picture gallery thing. But just wanted to say thank you all very much for the usage and the feedback and the growth. It's really outstanding, and it really brings a lot of good feeling to me that this was the right decision, apparently 2 years ago, to get this out there for the community and really help folks get into the client-side development a little bit deeper. I wanted to mention the roadmap. We are working, so this will not be for the immediately next release, but maybe the release after that, an improved AAD client. So now that the engineering team has figured out what they're doing, we can piggyback off that a little bit. Not going to share details now, but we have a plan forward with that, and we'll share details once we get that going. We're going to branch out into a little bit of Teams work. So we'll have some @PnP/Teams library. So that's coming, as well as we're going to work on some samples then around using all this. So some more end-to-end, not just the documentation code snippets, but some actual, sample SharePoint Framework web parts or SharePoint Framework extensions or Node apps, something like that, but some real sort of end-to-end samples. And as well, I always want to invite people, if you have ideas that would be valuable to you, we love to hear those. We can put those into the roadmap, help prioritize them. But as Vesa mentioned, we aren't as much in the field, customer facing anymore, so we don't know in the same way we all used to what are the pressing problems we're trying to solve for customers, or that you all are trying to solve for customers. So definitely let us know. We can help work that stuff into the library. And if you haven't, check out the docs, pnp.github.io/pnp. Get you the docs for the new libraries. It's a great way to get started with them, and really encourage folks to start transitioning as soon as you get an opportunity. The July is going to come pretty quickly, and so that's when SPFx JS will cease to get updates. So look to transition when you can. And then some usage information. I always like to share this at the end of the month. So these numbers are missing either 1 or 2 days, but we've consistently been over 1 billion requests. We dropped a little bit in December, obviously the holiday season there, but we're at 1.2 billion requests the last 2 months, January, February, and we are increasing number of tenants month over month consistently now. So again, that's a thank you to all of you out there in the community who are using the library in your projects. evangelizing that and getting your customers to have that uptake. So just wanted to say thank you again there. We had 6,300 downloads from NPM, and we've had 7,500 README views of the README file, and that's something we just started tracking this month of February. And that's actually second only to the PowerShell library inside the Patterns and Practices ecosystem. So really exciting, again, to see that usage and uptake. And finally, wanted to share the map at the bottom, which is something personally I'm super excited about. That's where those views came from. So it's kind of worldwide. Folks are finding the work we've all done together, build up, and are using that. And so it's super exciting. And just a small plug, since there's obviously a lot of views from Europe, you can see me say words at the European Collaboration Summit coming up there in May. So we'll have a couple different sessions, and you can tell me to my face everything that's wrong with the libraries. So Office 365 CLI, some great updates again this month. I am a real person. I might be part robot. We'll see. But Office 365 CLI, the next release, they're going to go up to V1 in a matter of days. So updates to the SharePoint docs, so managing site collection, app catalogs, ALM APIs, as well as tenant properties. So recently added support for Graph, managing Office 365 groups, and then working with sites, lists, and files. And then so the February numbers as compared to January, so these are the month-over-month growth, is 36% in NPM downloads, 34% month-over-month docs users, and then 61% docs visits month-over-month growth. So really excited to see the growth and the uptake of Office 365 CLI, another great tool for everybody out there to put in your tool belts. And then down at the bottom, you can use the tag Office 365 CLI on Twitter. There's a Gitter channel for the Office 365 CLI, and then as well, that AKA MS link will take you to that Gitter channel. So if you haven't checked out the Office 365 CLI yet...
Patrick,
yes.
sorry, we do have a Waldek on a call. I'm just saying that let's...
Oh, we do?
Yeah,
yes.
I thought he could never make
I was
these
really
calls.
quiet. And Patrick, you did fantastic job. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah. I don't have that much to add other than that, as Patrick said, we're going really hard towards V1. We have more and more help from folks who contribute, who spend their time contributing commands or even expanding existing docs, giving feedback and ideas for new commands. So that's really, really great to see how it grows, how many people start using it more and more and more. So, yeah, I can only say, again, really big thanks to you guys, to everybody who chimes in, spends their time, offers help. And yeah, if you have anything to ask, you can follow us on Twitter. Using the hashtag, you can find us on Gitter. And then if you go to aka.ms/o365CLI, you'll find the docs with description of all commands that we have, manuals for acquiring CLI, installing it, updating it, and so forth. So everything is there. And CLI, to give you a quick wrap-up, is a cross-platform command line tool that allows you to manage your tenant no matter if you are on Windows, on a Mac, or on Linux. It does not replace PowerShell. It's just another way of managing your tenant. If you prefer to use CLI, use that. If you like to use PowerShell, use that, right? So it's just another tool that you can use to manage your tenant. And with that, again, big thanks to everybody who contributes, and giving it back to Patrick.
Sorry, Patrick, for jumping there. Elio is not on the call, so you can actually continue.
So no
say, I don't know. Who's sneaking on the calls now? So check out the Office 365 CLI. As I and Waldek have said, it's a very cool tool to add to your tool belt. Moving on to an update on the SharePoint Framework reusable components. Excuse me, we are at 1.3.0 for the SharePoint Framework property controls, with two new controls there, the property field multi-select and the property field number. And those, you can see examples of both of those there on the slide. We've got a couple of enhancements as well in the latest version. The property field term picker introduced property to specify to show or hide the term store name, and then as well a property where terms were unselected based on ID instead of path. So two great enhancements as well as two new controls there. Sorry, nope, I see the reusable slide.
There's a apparently, yeah, there we go. Now I can at least see the proper slide. Now we are on a demo slide.
Perfect. So now we are ready for the demo. So we got 3 demos and we got 30 minutes to get them in. So I'll let everybody do the math on that. But Ramin, are you ready to go?
Yep.
Excellent. Well, if you want to take over as presenter.
Yes.
And so Ramin has got a React file upload example that I think is really cool. So let's check that out.
And let's hope that the network cards are working and are with us. Crossing fingers, loading 3 dots. And
yep, so I got it on my side.
As well. Brilliant.
Take it away.
Could you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hello, guys. I'm really happy to be among you guys, and today I'm going to show you how the file upload web part works. Let's just quick jump to the demo. This is our web part, React file upload. There are some properties that you can change here. If you want to upload files to a document library, or if you want to upload it as an attachment to an existing item in a list, so you can just change the property. And this is the list picker control that you can just use it really easily. And this is our file types that user allows to upload to SharePoint. And if you want to attach files to an item, you can just specify the query string parameter, for example, item ID, or any other parameters that you want to use. So let's start with documents. I publish the page. Okay. And this is a drag drop zone that you can just drag your files here. As you can see, files uploaded here. But it's not the reason I created this sample. Actually, I created this because I need a way to add attachments to an item, to a list item. Because as you know, if you use Power Apps before, Power Apps doesn't allow you to add attachments to a list item currently. But if I can move this. Yeah. So, sorry. We have a Power Apps form here. I want to create an item. And it redirects me to a page that this web part is here, and when I click on file to upload, it's going to actually send this file to item ID 2 that is in a report an issue list. So do you want to see the code, or just is enough?
Oh, definitely. We should see the code, please.
Yep. So, in the code, we have some properties, as you can see here, as we use some reusable controls for list picker. It just goes here, property field list picker. And also, when you want to attach a file to a document library or a list item, you need to get permission. So here on init function, I just create some code, add some code to get the digest cache from the page, so we can use it when we want to attach the files to a document library or list item. And if we look at the React component that we have here, so this is our config. This is the header. We need to specify when we want to use REST API to upload files. And this is the digest property that we pass to this component. And there are some other functions that you can use. By the way, we are using the JS library for uploading files. So there is some out-of-the-box event handler that you can use. For example, on processing, we just changed the URL to a REST API that we can to upload the files, upload the file to a document library or in a list item. And also, I use PnP JS to remove a file. So when you click on remove file, you use PnP JS to remove it from the document library. And after you remove it, you can just add some other comments here also. And this is our actual component that we have here. You can just customize it whatever you want. There are two CSS files here that you can customize the view, the preview section of this web part, and also the remove file text that you can just customize it to an icon, for example, cross icon or whatever. And yep, that's it.
Cool. And this one is also in the sample gallery. So let me actually put a link on that one. SPFx web ports came in actually earlier this week. There was a small delay on processing some of the pull requests in a GitHub because due to, again, time related issues. But let me actually get the link on that one. And it is in here, and then we can move, I think, Rodrigo. So there's the link on the sample gallery on having a closer look on that one. So great work, Ramin, and great work on the demo as well. So thanks for that one.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. And as well, with the post, when the video post goes up, we'll have links to all these samples as well to make it easy to find things. So thank you, Ramin. Excellent example. And now, Rodrigo, if you are ready to go.
Yeah, I'm ready. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, just sharing my desktop at the moment. By the way, whilst people are waiting, I'm just posting the URL for the sample.
I was just trying to get it as well. Thank you for that. So,
okay. So let me just.
Right, I've got your screen.
Cool. So I know I've been here before, but for people who didn't attend, so I'm just going to introduce myself quickly. So my name is Rodrigo Silva. I'm an independent SharePoint developer and technical architect, and I'm currently working over Dublin, the warm and fuzzy Dublin, for a company named Storm Technology. And here are the links for someone who wants to follow me. And now I'm going to jump into the presentation. So first things first, if you go to the sample, you have some prerequisites. You have two useful links here. This one is basically just a video showing you how to do what I'm going to do today. And this one is actually for the cognitive services, the Q&A maker, which is basically this page. Not going to talk much about the Q&A itself, but it's basically part of the cognitive services. This one is a free to use API, hence the reason why I decided to do And it's basically, its main objective is to transform those old, boring FAQ pages into a more dynamic thing, such as a chatbot. So basically, this receives as an input either any type of file, or you can pass a URL, and then it processes. It then forms a knowledge base, and from that moment on, you can start using it. So if you follow the link here, you go to this page, which is the Q&A maker itself. You would log in with your account, and you would create a new service. So basically, you give it a service name, you pass the URL of the FAQ page you have. And I'm just not going to do it now because I have a service already, but yeah, you just pass the URL there. You can upload the files here as well, and when it's ready, just click create. In my case, I already have the two here, and for this demo, we're going to use this one. So just going to show the settings quickly. So basically, I just pressed this quick page here. This is the Microsoft one. So we have FAQ about Windows and about Office, and we have a few here. So I didn't pass any files, and this basically created this knowledge base. So as you can see, there's two types of sources here. One is the editorial, so the ones that we manually input, and the other one is the one that was actually retrieved from the URL I've specified. So we have all the pairs here, all the questions and answers. And after being satisfied with our knowledge base, as you can see, I added this one as well. What is PnP? And I'll just grab the quick introduction. So after when you're satisfied with your knowledge base, you then have this tab where you can test your bot. So you can chat, you can say hello, and this doesn't recognize hello, but we could potentially add that. So let's say service key. Okay, so this is just a random question, but it gives us like different types of questions, and then we can choose the most appropriate. Okay, so I want every time this is asked, I want this to be answered. So let me just try again. Well, okay. So basically, after testing and training and indicating the most appropriate answers for your bot, you can then save. And it's going to take a minute, and then publish. And just before we publish, he's gonna ask you to review your changes. So okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm gonna publish. And these are the two important things that we need for this demo. So one is the knowledge base ID, which is here, and the other one is the subscription key. So all set. We have our knowledge base, we trained, we're happy with the results, and then we grab these two values. Okay, so let me now just jump into the code. So I'll show the code with detail a little bit later, but for now, under services, I've created these tab services basically because I like to isolate my data services. So here, as you can see in the beginning of this class, this is where you're going to put your subscription key and your knowledge base ID, and we're good to go. So let me I'm going to use actually the site I used last time. So it's already there, as you can see. So it's because it's a SharePoint Framework extension. So it's already there. It's our PnP Q&A chat. So we can say hi, and hi, I'm pretty sure it recognizes. And a really cool thing is, I don't know if you could see there, but in here, in my knowledge base, I had So I had what is PnP, but if I actually go here and just say who's PnP, so it's going to give me the same answer because it's using cognitive services. So he knows how to deal with normal language. So basically, it goes and picks up the right answer. Once again, if it wasn't the right answer, you can go and train, and that's it. Well, that's pretty much it. So I'm going to show the code now. It's a very, very simple sample. So we have basically, I've created this service here, which I call cognitive services. Basically, my class just has two keys: the knowledge base ID, the subscription key, and then I just have only one method, which is get Q&A answer, and basically receives the question. So basically, I create the post URL using the knowledge base ID, and then body, this is pretty standard, and then I append the subscription key to the header, and I'll make the request. And basically, because I wanted something more friendly, if the answer is different to this, no good match found in KB, so we're just going to say, sorry, could not find an answer to your question, and then return the answer. The actual web part itself, the web part, the extension. So basically on init, I'm calling the method render footer. I'm instantiating the new cognitive services here. I'm passing this context because it's part of its configuration. And then basically just appending this element to the DOM. And the element itself is pretty simple because, well, I like, if other people develop really cool components, why should I reinvent the wheel? So basically, there's a really cool sample called widget. So I'm just using that React Chat widget. It receives basically this function as a parameter. So handle user message, and it is handle user message because I passed the cognitive services in the props. I'm just okay. So there's a new message. Let's get the Q&A answer and then respond. It's just as simple as that. So that's pretty much it. And what I'll do, let's.
While you're doing that, Rodrigo, I have to say that it's amazing how little amount of code you needed to have to make this work, isn't it? It's just
yes. But that's exactly why I decided to post as a sample, because it's just so simple, and the intention was to make it as simple as possible.
It is super powerful, but the implementation is simple, no doubt.
Yeah, that's correct. And that's it for me, Vesa.
Excellent. Really great demo. And the link has been already in the Ion Windows a few times. We will put it in the video notes, like Patrick mentioned. But Patrick, I can't help myself. You're the host. I should not jump on these things.
Well, you don't get to number one by not talking. Another fantastic demo, so thank you for that, Rodrigo. I will, as we're switching the slides over, just say to folks, if you're not looking at AI and cognitive services and working these kinds of things into your projects, it really is something that's going to just grow. So looking at the investments that Microsoft, as well as many other companies, are placing into AI, it's definitely an area to have a look at. It's obviously not appropriate for every project or every solution, but definitely something to keep in mind, and a great thing to learn. And as you saw, generally with these services, it doesn't take a lot of code to integrate things and get things such that they are usable, and you get the value out of these kind of services into your applications fairly easily. So check those out. Check out AI in general, and check out this sample. And as Vesa has mentioned as well, we'll get that link as part of the post. So our last demo today is Austin Breslin with an offline first React. Austin, are you ready to go?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. If you want to take over as a presenter and...
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Not quite yet. Still loading for me. And it looks like I've got it.
Not in here yet, so let's wait one more time. We are all across the world. I can see that it's supposed to start, but it's not actually starting. Stuck on demo. Yeah, exactly. I have the same thing on the demo slide. And quite a few others are reporting the same issue. So, Patrick, you got it.
I shouldn't.
Oh, there we go. Loading 3 dots. No. Oh, or restarting. That's fine.
Yeah, I just stopped presenting and started again.
Yep, sounds good. Now it's loading 3 dots.
There we go.
And here we go. Yes, now all good in this location as well.
Okay, so
Have at it.
So to begin, I have put a breakpoint here, and this is before it will make any HTTP request. So we can see this working in slow-mo pretty much. In that case, I'll clear the storage so that we know that there is no storage, and refresh the page. So there's nothing loaded yet. We should hit a breakpoint. And then I'm going to turn it off, disconnect from the internet on my browser. Continue, it will have a failed HTTP request. I will then reconnect to the internet. It then detected that I'm now back on the internet, and it's right back at the exact same breakpoint. So it's going to make a HTTP request again. And there it is, success. So I'm going to turn on cache so that the next time I load the page, it will give me a 304 on request. So reload this time again. I haven't made a HTTP request, but as we can see, the GitHub API has been retrieved from storage. And there's the fetch again. So it's not even executed the HTTP request yet, but we already have displayed something to our users. And yeah, there's a wee bit of a bug in Chrome where IndexDB it's not live. Like, you can't see it, you have to close the actual console, but we'll continue with this part of the demo. So it retrieved it from offline and displayed it to the user. Then it hit our breakpoint and then actually retrieved it from online. So let me close it and I can show you how it works in the background. So IndexDB, after I closed the developer tools and reopened it, is back up and running. So there is two IndexDBs here. One is called the queue, and this is supposed to only contain failed request, failed post request, failed get request, updates, deletes. I think that's all of them. And then the live is what you kind of want to store here from what you don't want the user to reload. And it's quite important to decide to be very decisive about it, because there are limits on it, and I think Chrome and Firefox only allow a 50 megabyte limit. So don't store everything. Only store what the user will require locally. So if you got like an advert, you don't really want to store the advert offline. Users don't care if your advert does or doesn't load. But as you can see, this is where it got all the PnP repos. So this is a list of all of the PnP repos on GitHub. And I used GitHub's API because it allows cross-origin and it's easy to use. So that's it there locally, all 30 of them. Actually, that's a lot. And time to get into the code. I literally just installed Visual Studio on my machine, Visual Studio Code. Components. So in the component did mount, we set up the request info and the request init, the two fetch objects that are required for a fetch. My init is actually null, so I didn't set it up. It's only the info because this is a get URL, but if this was a post, you would possibly you would do request init, and you would import it, and you can pass the two of those on. So what we're saying here is we get from local first, and this is what the offline first is about. It's retrieve it from local, and even if the user is not online, they still will see a result, and then we like to set state in React when we get the result. So we set the state. After the state is set using the set state callback option, we then have a component did mount with local is what I called it, because as you've seen when I paused before I hit the HTTP request, the user could already see some results, and then later when it makes the HTTP request, it will actually do a set state again. So normally this is your normal component did mount, but this time it's two component did mounts, as you can see, but one is for offline, which is the normal lifecycle component did mount, and the second one is when the user is online. So even this gives the user a perceived performance increase. It's not an actual performance increase, but React makes it even faster because it won't redraw if it's the exact same HTTP request with the exact same results. So in my scenario with using GitHub, this actually didn't cause a re-render. And then the other wee piece of magic that I would say we've seen was actually in the offline event. So when I went online and offline, so these two event listeners are the key to that. They just trigger when a person is online or offline. Now this doesn't work on, as you can see up here, it doesn't work on older Firefox browsers, it doesn't work on Internet Explorer 11. There is a polyfill available for that online, but I didn't put it into the sample. It's this sync changes to server, so this will then read the queue in the application. In the IndexDB, it reads the queue, and if there is anything in the queue, it will then try to clear that out because they are failed HTTP requests, and it just loops through it, but it does a different loop depending on if it's a post to the server or a get. Gets are relatively simple. It's the posts that are different, but pretty much it's about perceived performance, and it's about reading the stored data offline before you make the HTTP request. It's not a performance technique. It's a perceived performance UX technique.
I think, Austin, I'm just conscious about the time, so we're getting pretty close on the hour. But super cool stuff, and there was people super happy on the demo, and that was the whole point of the submission and the web part itself. That's blue and it's rendering white text. That's not the whole point. The point is the pattern, and this is really a great contribution and something what we love to have as part of the sample gallery as well, because it concentrates on showing a technique rather than hiding a awesome technique behind of a complex, let's say, UIs and all of that. So these are absolutely welcome as a technology demos in the sample gallery. Cool, Patrick.
Yep, and it's definitely a pattern as well. Thank you for that, Austin. A pattern as well we've discussed in the past on these calls with the idea of storing stuff on the client side, either local storage or the IndexDB. There's different techniques to help with performance. as well in a real sense, past just the UI sense is also a possibility. So really important pattern, something to keep in mind. So I wanted to say thank you to Ramin, Rodrigo, and Austin. Great demos today. Really appreciate everybody's time putting those together and doing them on the call for us. If you would like to do a demo, like I said previously, just get in touch. Our next meeting is going to be March 15th. So that's not next Thursday, but the Thursday after. And next Thursday will be the General SharePoint Development Special Interest Group on March 8th. So thank you, everybody. Everybody have a great weekend and look forward to talking soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.